Hello, welcome back to Digital Garden Tokyo 2025. I'm here with Dan Kesler, one of the co-founders of the conference. Dan, congratulations on a fantastic 2 days here. It's been amazing. We're just about to kind of head into some of the final sessions. How's everything gone from your perspective? You're very calm on the surface, but I'm sure lots behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, it's the result of a lot of hard work, a lot of time, and obviously very appreciative for the Tech Capital and your support. One of our very early partners.
Yeah, so. Likewise. We're very happy to be here. So yeah, Digital Garden is your first year, the first time that you've launched this event. Why don't you talk us through like kind of how this all came about and like how you've got involved in it?
So, we were previously doing a big data center development here in Japan, and one of the things that we realized was there was a lot of people that should be talking to each other that are not, and born out of the idea that Japan has an enormous potential, right? There are so many amazing things that this market can offer from a digital infrastructure perspective, not only in serving its domestic needs, but also in terms of being a regional hub and a global center of innovation. And so I think what we really motivated it is saying, both the Japanese side is extremely eager to do more, right? Both on the government and the private sector. And then globally, there's a ton of players that want to do more in Japan, find it difficult, and we think a lot of those issues can be solved by people getting together, talking more. I'll use an anecdote we had a nice sponsors breakfast yesterday, and the CEO of one of the very large Japanese companies came up to us and was like, "This is phenomenal, like I have never participated in something like that," which is kind of crazy if you think about it.
Yeah.
CEO of one of the very large public Japanese companies saying that he does not participate in forums like that, they weren't available. So we think people want to engage and they want to do more. It was just creating a forum for them to
Yeah, I mean, it's very surprising to hear that, right? Because you can't move for data center events nowadays. You can probably make a full-time career of just attending different conferences, like with the amount that's out there. Why do you think there has been that kind of, less of that kind of like, I guess like collaborative ecosystem in this particular kind of forum in Japan?
I think. So first of all, it's crazy, right? Like we were going to conferences back when we were doing the investment side. We were at conferences in Hawaii and in Monaco and in Jakarta, and all over the world, like Tokyo. Like everyone wants to come to Tokyo. Like how is there not one of these events here? I think the reason is a lot of misconceptions, right? And on both sides. And I think honestly, it's one of those things where it's like someone needed to do this, and I think people think of Japan as sometimes, I think the global community thinks of Japan as, hard and closed, but it's not exactly true. Like, this is a topic where people really want to do a lot. They're really open to new ideas. They want to engage with the global community. They want to, the people on the government side and the private side want to engage and learn from the experience from people globally. And for the global side, thinking that language is a barrier, right? It is and it isn't, right? Like, I think in the context of digital infrastructure, people are really open to finding ways to communicate, and we're doing all the sessions here in both languages, and some are in Japanese, some are in English, some of the panels are mixed. The panel that I was doing was in both, and so kind of showing people, I think it took someone to say like, we can do it, and I hope that it becomes a platform for more stuff.
Yeah, I'm almost certain it will. You mentioned that you've had like a fair amount of government representation at the forum this year, which has been really, really good to see. How did that all come about, and what do you see kind of like your role being between the kind of like industry side and the government ministry side going forward?
So I think when you look about the government involvement in digital infrastructure, so digital infrastructure actually falls under a couple bodies of government. And so I think that's one of the first things that we wanted to expose is, there's different policy perspectives, depends on what you're dealing with, and so you need to be mindful of all of those. I think the government really wants, part of why it's not a given that the government supports and comes and speaks at a first year event. And the reason for it is people are extremely hungry and extremely eager to do more in this space, and the government really wants to support it. There's a lot of initiatives in place, and they want to help, but it's hard for them to help when there's, they're getting all kinds of different feedback and people are saying all kinds of stuff and there's different ministries that oversee different things. So it's about bringing people together and saying, okay, here are 3-4 things that will really help that we can do. And when you simplify it and are more united in the messages of what you need, then it's much easier for the policymakers to make policy. So that's what we're hoping happens, and the government on their side also wants this. Like this is literally their mandate is to expand digital infrastructure. We heard from Nishimura-san today, one of the most senior members in the Japanese government, basically saying this is a priority. We want to make this happen. Get together, speak, and we're behind you. We're here to support you.
Yeah, it's really good to see. Congratulations to you guys on kind of bringing those two sides together. It definitely seems like something that needs to happen. You alluded to this earlier, that you ran a panel session yesterday. Why don't you just quickly tell us kind of like what that was focused on and some of your key takeaways from it?
So, power and fiber, it's funny, right? It's on one side, it's an area of enormous strategic advantage to Japan, right? People don't talk enough about it, in my opinion. The second most reliable grid in the world after Liechtenstein, right? So among major substantial economies, Japan is by far the leading. Grid, the average Japanese consumer is going to experience an outage every 50 years, and even when they do, it's going to be a very short one. So the quality of infrastructure that exists here, this is a market that has been developing fiber, both subsea and terrestrial, for decades, right? So the density of fiber, 99.9% of Japanese households actually have access to are connected to the internet, and so that connectivity is an enormous, substantial advantage. At the same time, you hear the common problems, right? Like time to power, right? 5 to 8 years, challenges sometimes around redundancy and all these stuff that we like, the increase in the need for renewable power, like these challenges that we need to address, all solvable at the end of the day, and Japan has the might to do them. And so what I took from it that was really interesting is, on one side, enormous strategic advantages and solvable problems, right? Both in the short term. Not everything is large infrastructure upgrades. Some of it is increased transparency in processes around where there is power. We talked a little bit about welcome zones, right? And the utilities being more transparent around where there is and there isn't power. And so there's better communication and planning between the different bodies involved. There was a welcome initiative around, thinking about how the operators can actually participate from a financial perspective in the development of that infrastructure as well. So new ideas that came about how to do it. And it was, very, very fascinating discussion. And I thought kind of highlighted that dynamic of enormous opportunities and solvable challenges.
Yeah, I think that's been my biggest takeaway as well from like the whole event here is there is like a huge amount of optimism about Japan, but with that kind of like measured skepticism, I would say. Like people aren't like kind of glossing over the problems. They're very happy to point them out, like the high construction costs, the constraints that we're seeing in Tokyo and Osaka, some issues around kind of like skilled labor, but as you say, there is like a really like kind of like forward-thinking mindset around those problems, and if they can be overcome, lots of potential. So I'm sure that's something that we'll be discussing here for the years coming forward. But thank you very much for chatting with us.
Thank you so much, Jack. Thank you for making the trip over and covering it and being so supportive of everything. You guys are a really big, important part of it.
Very glad to.
Thank you so much.
Make sure to check out techcapital.com for more news, views, and industry insights.